2-minute psychological crime hook, fast and real. There was a chair in the interrogation room, just one. The detectives expected fear, they expected excuses, they expected cracks, but the chair stayed empty for 5 hours because the man they were looking for never showed up. Instead, he walked out of the building after convincing the police he was helping them. This wasn't a violent criminal. No record, no anger, no panic. He smiled, answered calmly, corrected detectives when they made mistakes, and while the police chased the wrong suspect, he went home and destroyed the evidence. This is how psychological criminals work. They don't run, they don't shout, they don't threaten. They sit quietly while everyone else talks. In real cases, the most dangerous criminals are often described the same way: calm, polite, normal. One FBI profiler said something chilling: "The ones who scare us the most never look scared themselves." Psychological criminals don't rely on force, they rely on patience. They understand something most people don't. When pressure rises, normal people make mistakes. They don't. In one real interrogation, a suspect sat under a spotlight for 8 hours, didn't ask for water, didn't shift in his seat, didn't blink. The detectives broke first. They filled the silence. They revealed strategy. They showed doubt. And that man walked free, because psychological crime isn't about violence. It's about control. And the most terrifying thing in that room wasn't the chair. It was how comfortable he would have been sitting in it. By the time detectives realized they'd made a mistake, it was already too late. The man they let walk out of the building wasn't just a witness. He was the architect. Security footage showed him leaving calmly, stopping once to thank the receptionist by name. That detail mattered later, because killers don't remember names, manipulators do. At first, the case looked simple: a missing woman, no signs of forced entry, no blood, no struggle. Her phone was left on the kitchen table face down. That alone should have raised alarms. People don't leave their phones behind, unless they don't expect to need them again. Neighbors described a quiet life, no enemies, no public arguments. And then came the first twist. The last person to see her alive wasn't a stranger. It was the man who had just helped police narrow down suspects. He claimed he was an old friend, calm, helpful, cooperative. Too cooperative. When detectives finally replayed the interrogation footage, they noticed something disturbing. Every time the victim's name was mentioned, everyone in the room shifted, except him. No blink, no micro-expression, no tension in the jaw. It was as if her existence meant nothing. That's when the profiler stepped in. She paused the footage, zoomed in on his eyes, and said something that changed the direction of the case. This man isn't hiding fear, he's hiding boredom. Psychological criminals don't fear consequences, they fear losing stimulation.
The investigation went deeper. Phone records showed something unexpected. The victim had been receiving messages from herself. Same number, same writing style, except she didn't send them. Someone had learned her patterns, her phrases, her timing. Someone had been practicing. The man denied everything, smiled while denying it. Then came the second shock. A storage unit rented under a fake name led police to dozens of items. Not trophies, scripts, handwritten notes detailing conversations that hadn't happened yet. Arguments, apologies, confessions, all written in advance. He wasn't reacting to people, he was rehearsing them. This wasn't impulse, this was choreography. Detectives realized something chilling. He didn't just plan the crime, he planned everyone's reaction afterward. The media, the police, the family, even the suspect profiles. He studied true crime, interrogation techniques, body language. He knew when to speak and when silence would make others uncomfortable enough to talk for him. Then came the moment that broke the room. A junior detective asked a question no one else dared to ask. "Why didn't you ask for a lawyer?" The man leaned forward, smiled, and said calmly, "Because innocent people ask for lawyers when they're scared." The room went silent. That line alone delayed his arrest by days, because it worked. But then the final mistake happened. Not his, the police's. They brought him back for a second interview. Same chair, same spotlight, different outcome. This time, they didn't fill the silence. They let it stretch. Minutes passed, then 10, then 30. For the first time, something changed. His leg moved, just slightly. The profiler noticed. Boredom had turned into irritation, and irritation is the closest thing to emotion he had. They waited. Eventually, he spoke, and what he said shocked everyone. "I didn't think you'd last this long." That was the crack. He wasn't confessing, he was evaluating, and that told them everything. He wasn't reacting to guilt, he was reacting to resistance. The evidence finally came together through someone unexpected. The receptionist, the one whose name he remembered. She realized he had used her name in conversation before she introduced herself. That meant he'd been there before, watching, waiting. The empty chair under the spotlight was never meant for him. It was meant for everyone else. Because psychological criminals don't break when pressured. They break when the game stops being fun. And when the verdict was read months later, he showed no emotion, no anger, no relief, just a calm nod, as if the outcome had already been written, because in his mind, it always was. The trial should have been simple. The evidence was strong, the timeline was clear, the jury believed they understood what kind of man they were dealing with. They were wrong. Because psychological criminals don't fight cases the way normal criminals do. They don't argue facts, they manipulate perception. From the very first day in court, something felt off. He didn't look nervous, he didn't look angry, he didn't even look defensive. He looked curious, like this was an experiment. During testimony, he watched the jury more than the witnesses, tracked who nodded, who avoided eye contact, who leaned forward during emotional moments. One juror later admitted something chilling. "I felt like he was studying us, like we were part of the trial." Then came the first courtroom twist. The defense didn't deny the crime. They denied intent. They argued psychological manipulation wasn't violence, that influence wasn't force, that control wasn't a crime. And disturbingly, it almost worked. Experts took the stand. Neuroscientists explained brain differences, reduced emotional response, blunted fear circuitry. The defense leaned into it. "This isn't evil," they said. "This is biology." For the first time, the room felt divided. Then the prosecution revealed something they'd kept hidden. A second phone, recovered from a landfill weeks earlier. It didn't belong to the victim. It belonged to someone no one had connected to the case. A woman reported missing 3 years earlier. Different city, different name, same pattern. No forced entry, phone left behind, no struggle. The courtroom went silent. They played audio recovered from the phone, a voice message.